The morning light came slowly over the rocky hills of Drakkar 4. Captain Marcus Webb stood by the large window in the control room and watched the two suns rise above the strange forest. His coffee cup sat cold in his hand. He had not moved for a long time. Outside the window, something very strange was happening. The big creatures they called dragons were moving rocks around in careful patterns. Marcus had been watching them for 20 minutes now, and he could not look away. The dragons were huge animals with shiny scales that changed colors when they moved. Each one was as big as a small building. The humans had been on this planet for 3 years, and they thought the dragons were just wild beasts. Dangerous, but not smart. Now, Marcus was not so sure about that. Kate Morrison walked quickly across the room. She was a young officer with short dark hair and sharp eyes. Her voice shook a little when she spoke. "Sir, you need to see this right now." Marcus turned and followed her to the computer screens. She pressed some buttons and video from a flying camera appeared. The video showed an open space about 10 miles from the base. 3 adult dragons were there. They were not hunting or sleeping or doing normal animal things. They were searching for something. "How long have they been doing this?" Marcus asked. "Since the sun came up. They have looked through almost 25 square miles. They are following a pattern like they have a plan." Marcus watched the screen carefully. The biggest dragon had an old scar across its nose. It stopped and smelled the ground. Then it lifted its head and looked around slowly. When it looked up at the camera, Marcus felt cold inside. The dragon's eyes looked smart. Too smart. "Where is Danny Carter?" Marcus asked suddenly. Kate typed fast on her keyboard. "He works with plants and animals. He went out yesterday by himself to study the North Valley. He was supposed to come back this morning. Call him on the radio." Kate tried. She pressed buttons and spoke into her headset. Nothing happened. No answer came back. "Sir, he is not answering any of our calls." Marcus picked up his tablet computer. Danny Carter was only 26 years old, but he was very good at his job. He had learned more about this planet in 6 months than anyone else had learned in 2 years. But Danny took too many risks. He thought getting close to dangerous things was the only way to really understand them. "Show me where he is on the map." Kate put the map on the big screen. A small dot showed where Danny's tracking device said he was. The dot was in a canyon system in the north. Marcus looked at the map and then at the video of the dragons. The dragons were flying straight toward the same place where Danny was. "Get a rescue ship ready," Marcus said. "I want security people with guns. If those things find him first, we might be too late." "Sir, wait," Kate said loudly. "I am getting something from Danny's emergency radio, but it is not a help call. It is a signal that keeps repeating." She turned on the speakers. Everyone in the room could hear it now. A pattern of sounds came through. 3 short beeps, then 2 long ones, then 3 short beeps again. Over and over. "That is not normal," Marcus said. "No, sir, but he is doing it on purpose. He is trying to tell us something." Marcus looked out the window again. The dragons were flying in formation now. They had changed direction and were flying faster. They were going straight toward Danny Carter like they knew exactly where he was. "Get that ship in the air now," Marcus said quietly, "and pray we are not too late." Inside the control room, people started running and shouting orders. Kate kept watching the screens. The dragons were getting closer to Danny's location. 5 miles away. 4 miles. 3 miles. Marcus ran to the landing pad where the rescue ship was starting its engines. Lieutenant Greg Palmer was the pilot. He was an older man with gray hair who had flown ships for 20 years. 4 security people with rifles climbed in behind Marcus. "Where are we going, sir?" Greg asked. "North Canyon system. Fast as you can. We have a man out there and 3 very big problems heading his way." The ship lifted off the ground and shot forward. Through the front window, Marcus could see the mountains getting closer. His hands gripped the armrest tight. Danny Carter was out there alone with dragons coming for him. Dragons that were acting much smarter than any animal should act. Kate's voice came through the radio. "Sir, the dragons just changed direction again. They are definitely tracking something. And whatever they are tracking is not moving. It is staying in one place." "That has to be Danny," Marcus said. "Sir, what if he is hurt?" What if he cannot move? Marcus did not answer. He did not want to think about that. The ship flew over the first mountain ridge and down into the valley beyond, while the northern canyons opened up below them like cracks in the planet's skin. There, Greg said, pointing. I see the dragons. 3 dark shapes flew in circles above one of the canyons. They were big and fast and terrifying. As the ship got closer, Marcus could see the scarred one in front. It folded its wings and dropped down into the canyon like a stone falling from the sky. Get us down there, Marcus ordered. Sir, if we get too close, they might attack the ship. I said get us down there. The ship dropped fast, making Marcus's stomach flip. They came around a rock wall and into the canyon. What Marcus saw next made no sense at all. Danny Carter sat on the ground near a small cave. He was not hurt. He was not running. He was not even standing up. He just sat there calmly while the 3 huge dragons landed around him in a circle. Danny Carter had made many mistakes in his life, but this one was probably the biggest. He sat in a shallow cave holding a baby dragon in his arms, while 3 angry parents searched for it outside. At least he hoped they were just angry and not ready to kill him. The baby dragon was small compared to the adults. It was about the size of a large dog. Its scales were soft and felt warm against Danny's chest. He had wrapped it in his emergency blanket to keep it comfortable. One of its wings hung at a bad angle. It was broken. Danny had figured that out pretty quickly. He found the little dragon yesterday at the bottom of a deep crack in the rocks. It was making crying sounds that hurt to hear. The noise sounded almost human. Danny knew he should just watch and take notes like his training said, but he could not walk away from something in pain. So he climbed down and picked it up. Now, 12 hours later, he was still holding it. He used his emergency radio to send out a repeating signal. He hoped it would sound friendly. Danny had spent months listening to the adult dragons make sounds to each other. They definitely talked in some kind of pattern. Whether they would understand his simple beeping message was a big question. He was trying to say, I have your child and I will not hurt it. The baby dragon made a soft purring sound and pushed its head against Danny's arm. He carefully checked the stick and cloth bandage he had made for its wing. The wing would heal if given enough time. Time was something Danny did not have much of anymore. Through the cave opening, he could see big shadows moving across the sky. 3 adult dragons were flying in circles that got tighter and tighter. They knew where their baby was. Of course they knew. What parent would not search everywhere for their missing child? Danny turned on his radio one more time. This is Carter calling Landing Base 7. If anyone hears this, I need you to know something important. The dragons are not just animals. They are smart like people. I say again, they are intelligent beings and I am holding one of their babies. I found it hurt and I helped it. I am going to try to give it back to its parents. If something bad happens to me, make sure everyone knows these creatures should be protected. He turned off the radio before Captain Webb could tell him to stop. Danny knew Marcus would order him to wait for rescue, but there was no time for that. The baby dragon looked up at Danny with big eyes that seemed to understand things. Could it tell he was scared? Could it sense that he only wanted to help? Your mom and dad are coming, Danny whispered to it. I hope they are nice folks who will listen. A huge shadow fell across the opening of the cave. Danny's heart beat so hard he thought it might break through his chest. The big scarred dragon landed right outside. Its wings were so large they could have covered a house. Up close, the creature was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Muscles moved under its armored scales. Its claws dug deep marks into the stone ground. But it did not attack. The dragon lowered its enormous head and made a sound. It was a questioning sound, almost gentle. It was the same pattern of tones that Danny had been sending on his radio. The baby dragon chirped back and tried to wiggle out of Danny's arms. Danny took a deep breath that might be his last one. He stood up slowly and walked out of the cave into the light. The scarred dragon was even bigger when Danny stood next to it. The creature could kill him with one bite or one swipe of its claws, but it just watched him, waiting. Danny knelt down carefully and unwrapped the baby dragon from the blanket. The little one made happy sounds and tried to walk forward. It limped because of the broken wing. Danny had tied a stick to the wing to keep it straight while it healed. The adult dragon made a low rumbling sound. 2 more dragons landed behind it. One was smaller with scales that looked bronze-colored. That one made worried mother sounds that needed no translation. Danny placed the baby dragon gently on the ground between himself and the scarred one. "I found your child hurt," he said out loud, even though he knew they could not understand his words. "I tried to help. The wing is broken, but it will heal. I am sorry I could not bring your baby back sooner." The baby dragon hobbled forward, making little crying chirps. The bronze-colored dragon rushed forward and nuzzled it carefully. The mother. Danny was sure of it now. The scarred dragon did not move toward its baby yet. It kept looking at Danny. Those big, intelligent eyes studied him like they were trying to understand what kind of creature would help someone else's child. Then the dragon did something that made Danny's breath stop. It bowed its head, not in a threatening way. It was a clear, deliberate bow toward Danny, or a gesture of respect or thanks. Danny heard the sound of ship engines. He turned and saw the rescue shuttle coming down slowly about 50 yards away. Captain Webb climbed out with his hands empty and visible. No weapons. Behind him, Kate Morrison and some security people stepped out, but they kept their guns pointed at the ground. Marcus walked toward Danny and the dragons. He moved carefully like someone approaching a dangerous animal. But when he got close, he stopped and stared. "Danny, what happened here?" Marcus asked. "I found her daughter, sir. It fell from somewhere high and broke its wing. I put a splint on it and kept it warm. I tried to signal that I was not dangerous. When this one found us," Danny pointed at the scarred dragon, "she understood. She knew I had helped her grandchild. She understood my intention, Captain. Oh, that means she can think in complex ways. That means she is intelligent like we are." The baby dragon chirped again, and the bronze mother picked it up gently in her mouth. The third dragon, a large male with dark scales, moved closer to protect them both. But the scarred matriarch kept watching the humans. She made a series of sounds and moved her wings in specific ways. Then she turned her head toward the mountains in the distance. She looked back at Marcus and Danny, then at the mountains again. "She wants us to follow her," Danny said quietly. "I think she wants to show us something." Kate's voice came through Marcus's radio. "Sir, this could be a trap. We should get Danny and leave now." But Marcus looked into the scarred dragon's eyes and saw something there. Understanding. Purpose. Maybe even trust starting to form. "Or we follow," Marcus said. "But we do it carefully and respectfully." The scarred dragon spread her massive wings and launched into the air. The other dragons followed, carrying the baby gently between them. They flew toward the mountains where the two suns made the sky bright with gold and orange light. Danny looked at Marcus. "Sir, I think we are about to learn why they came to this planet, and maybe why they let us stay here." The Dragon City was hidden inside an old volcano crater that did not show up on any of their maps. Marcus stood at the edge and tried to make sense of what he was seeing. His brain could not accept it at first. Buildings rose up from the black volcanic stone. They were not carved or built with blocks like human buildings. They looked like they had been grown somehow. The dragons had shaped the rock itself in ways humans did not understand yet. Tall towers spiraled up toward the sky, catching the sunlight and throwing rainbow colors across stone plazas. Every surface had patterns and designs carved into it. Some looked like art, and some looked like they might be writing. Kate stood next to Marcus with her mouth open. Her scanner hung forgotten in her hand. "This is impossible. Our satellites should have found this. We mapped every inch of this planet from space." Danny knelt down and touched the ground. "They did not hide it from our scans. Look at what this stone is made of. These minerals scatter our radio waves and sensor beams naturally. The dragons did not need to hide their city. They just built it in a place our technology cannot see." The scarred dragon landed in the center of the main plaza, on her wings folded perfectly against her sides. All around them, more dragons came out of the buildings. There were dozens of them, young ones barely bigger than cats, and ancient ones whose scales had turned gray and silver. They all watched the humans with careful, intelligent eyes. The scarred dragon made a long series of sounds. The other dragons answered back in a chorus. It sounded like singing to Marcus, like music that was older than any human song. "She is explaining us to them," Danny said quietly, "telling them what happened with her grandchild, about me helping. She is speaking for us." vouching for us. And very old dragon came forward slowly. Its scales were almost white. One of its back legs dragged when it walked like an old injury bothered it. When it reached the scarred dragon, they touched their foreheads together, and it was clearly a greeting between family members or old friends. The ancient dragon turned and looked at the humans. Its eyes held so much time and experience that Marcus felt like a small child. "Captain," Danny's voice shook a little, "I think we are being given something very special here, and something very serious." The old dragon moved toward one of the bigger buildings. The scarred one moved her head in a clear gesture. She wanted the humans to follow them inside. Marcus, Kate, and Danny walked carefully across the plaza. Dragons moved out of their way but watched every step. Inside the building was one huge room. Crystals in the walls glowed with their own light, making everything bright. But what really took Marcus's breath away were the walls themselves. They were covered with pictures and images. Not painted on like human art. The images were somehow inside the stone. A record that might be hundreds or thousands of years old. The story showed itself in panels around the room. Dragons traveling through space between stars. Dragons arriving on this planet and making it their home. And then in newer panels it showed ships arriving. Human ships. "They have been watching us the whole time," Kate said. "From the day we arrived, they knew we were here." Danny moved closer to look at the images more carefully. "Look at this part. They are showing themselves leaving certain areas. The valleys where we built our base. They moved away on purpose. They gave us space to live." "But why?" Marcus asked. "Why let us settle on their world? Why not chase us away or attack us?" The old dragon made a sad, low sound. It pointed with one claw at a panel near the back of the room. Marcus felt his stomach drop when he saw it. The image showed dragons lying dead. Dozens of them. Other dragons stood over them with their heads lowered in grief. And in the sky above the stars were exploding. Dying. Growing bright and violent before going dark. "A supernova," Danny breathed out. "Their home star system exploded. They are not colonists here. They are refugees. They fled here to survive." The ancient dragon pressed its head against the wall where the sad images were. When it looked back at the humans, Marcus saw something he understood in any language. Loss, grief, sorrow. The scarred dragon moved to stand beside the elder. She made a new series of sounds that were lower and more complicated. She pointed at the images of human settlement. Then at the young dragons playing outside. Then at her own grandchild with the broken wing. Danny's eyes went wide. "She is saying they let us stay because they understand what we lost. They know what it means to need a home. They hoped that maybe two species who both lost their birth planets could share this world together in peace." "Then why hide from us?" Kate asked. "Why not talk to us from the beginning?" The old dragon's answer was a sharp, angry sound. It moved to another panel. This one showed humans, but humans with weapons, ships covered in guns. A history lesson, Marcus realized. A warning about what the dragons had seen before from other species. "They were afraid of us," Danny said softly. "Afraid we would attack them. That we would see them as animals or threats or things to use and exploit. So they hid and watched and waited. They hoped we might be different from the other humans they had met somewhere in the past." The scarred dragon walked right up to Marcus. Her huge body made him look tiny. She lowered her head until one of her eyes was level with his face. In that eye, Marcus saw a question. And hope. "We can be different," Marcus said, knowing she could not understand his words, but hoping she would understand what he meant. "We can share this world. We can learn from each other, I promise." He reached out and touched his hand to her scaled nose. It was a gesture that might mean nothing to her. Or it might mean everything. The scarred dragon rumbled. The sound vibrated through the whole chamber. The ancient dragon moved forward and gently touched its head to Marcus's shoulder. Like a blessing, like acceptance, like welcome. "And Captain," Kate said, and her voice was shaking. "We need to call Earth. This changes everything. First contact rules, treaties between species, the whole way we do things." "No," Marcus said firmly. "Not yet. Think about what happens when Earth Command learns there are intelligent beings here. They will send diplomats and scientists and soldiers. They will want to study the dragons, put them in categories, control them. Some will want to use them for profit. So what do we do? Marcus looked at Danny, then at the dragons, then at the ancient city that had been hidden while humans built their small base in the valley below. We protect them, he said simply. We become the barrier between them and the worst things humanity might do. We learn about them. We build trust slowly and carefully. Mom, and when the time comes to tell Earth about them, we make absolutely sure we do it the right way. So that this, he pointed at the images of death and destruction on the wall, never happens to them again. The old dragon seemed to understand even though Marcus spoke human words. It made a sound like approval. The scarred dragon touched her head to Marcus's hand. Outside the crystal chamber, young dragons played with each other in the fading light. They had no idea that their future had just changed, that humans now knew their secret, that everything depended on whether these few humans could be trusted to protect rather than exploit. Marcus watched them play and made a silent promise to himself. He would not let these people down, not the dragons who had lost one home already, not the humans who deserved to learn they could share a world instead of conquer it. The two suns were setting now, painting the sky red and gold. Time to return to base. Time to start building something new. Something that had never existed before. A friendship between species, a shared home, a new beginning. 3 months passed since Marcus and his team first saw the Dragon City. Everything had changed, but most people on the base did not know it yet. Only a few trusted humans knew the truth. Marcus had chosen them carefully. People who could see the dragons as equals, not as animals or enemies. Danny Carter spent most of his days now walking between the human base and the Dragon City. He had become a bridge between the two species. Every day he learned more about how the dragons communicated. It was not just the sounds they made, or their wings moved in certain ways to mean different things. Their scales changed color slightly when they felt strong emotions. Even the patterns they drew in the air when they flew carried meaning. Today, Danny sat in the main plaza of the Dragon City with a notebook in his lap. The scarred dragon, who he now called Scar, sat across from him. Between them lay a flat stone. Danny drew a simple picture of the sun. Then he pointed at the real sun in the sky. Scar rumbled softly. She reached out with one claw and drew her own symbol next to Danny's. It was more complex. It showed not just the sun, but rays coming from it and the idea of warmth. You do not just have a word for sun, Danny said excitedly. You have a concept that includes what the sun does and what it means. Kate walked up behind him. She had been taking measurements of the buildings trying to understand how they were made. Danny, we have a problem. Another supply ship is coming next week. They are asking more questions about why we keep closing off the northern region. Command wants to know what we are hiding. Danny looked up at her worried. We knew this would happen. We cannot keep it secret forever. Marcus wants to meet. He says we need to make a decision. That evening, the small group of humans who knew about the dragons gathered in a conference room. Marcus sat at the head of the table. Kate was there along with Danny and Greg Palmer the pilot. Also, there were two other people, Lieutenant Amy Chen, who worked with communications, and Corporal Jake Williams from security. They were the only 6 humans who knew the full truth. Yo, we are running out of time, Marcus said. Every report I send to Earth has to explain why we are not opening more of the planet for settlement. Every delay makes them more suspicious. Sooner or later, someone will demand to come here and see for themselves. Then maybe it is time, Amy said quietly. Time to tell the truth. These dragons deserve to have their existence known. To have legal protection. Legal protection from who? Greg asked. From Earth? The same people who will see them as a resource to study or use or control? Not everyone is like that, Amy argued. Enough people are, Marcus said. I have been in the military for 20 years. I know how this works. The moment Earth knows there are intelligent aliens here, everything changes. Scientists will want to experiment on them. Corporations will want to exploit their technology. The military will want to make sure they are not a threat. Jake leaned forward. So we just keep lying. For how long? Until the dragons are ready, Danny said. Everyone turned to look at him. This is their choice to make, not ours. We should ask them what they want. Marcus nodded slowly. You're right. Can you arrange a meeting tomorrow? I can try. The next day, Marcus and his small team returned to the Dragon City. This time, they brought something new, a portable computer screen. Danny had spent the last month creating a simple way for humans and dragons to share complex ideas, pictures and symbols that both species could understand. Scar and the ancient elder dragon waited for them in the main chamber. Several other adult dragons were there too. One, the bronze-colored mother of the baby dragon, the large, dark-scaled father. Two others that seemed to be important leaders in the dragon community. Danny set up the screen and began. He showed pictures of Earth, pictures of human cities covering entire continents, pictures of ships traveling between stars, pictures of human soldiers and weapons. Then he showed pictures of treaties and peace, pictures of different human nations working together, the good and the bad of humanity laid out honestly. Then he showed what would happen if Earth learned about the dragons. Scientists studying them, reporters filming them, tourists wanting to visit, military ships in orbit. Everything that would change. The dragons watched silently. When the presentation ended, Scar made a long series of sounds. The elder dragon responded. They seemed to be discussing something important. Other dragons added their own voices. It went on for almost an hour. Finally, Scar turned to face the humans. She moved to the stone wall and used her claw to draw in the dust on the floor. A simple timeline. She marked the current day. Then she drew a mark much further down the line, about a year away if Danny was reading it correctly. She wants to wait, Danny said, but not to hide, to prepare. Scar continued drawing. She made symbols showing dragons learning about humans, humans learning about dragons, both sides getting ready. The elder dragon added its own drawing. It showed a dragon and a human standing together. Equals. Partners. Not master and servant or conqueror and conquered. They want to meet humanity as equals, Kate said, understanding. They want to be ready. To know enough about us that they can negotiate from strength, not weakness. Marcus stepped forward. You want our help. You want us to teach you about Earth and human culture, about our politics and history and everything that makes us who we are. Scar touched her nose to the drawing of the dragon and human standing together. Yes, the bronze-colored dragon stepped forward. She was smaller than Scar, but her movements were graceful and confident. She made a series of sounds and gestures. She is volunteering, Danny translated. She wants to come live at our base, to learn our language and our ways, to be the first dragon ambassador to humanity. Marcus looked at the bronze dragon. She looked back at him with steady eyes. This was a mother who had nearly lost her child, yet a mother who trusted humans because one human had helped instead of hurt. She was offering to leave her home and her family to build a bridge between species. We would be honored, Marcus said. Over the next week, preparations began. A section of the base was modified to accommodate a dragon-sized resident. The bronze dragon, who Danny started calling Dawn because her scales caught the morning light, moved into the space. At first, the other colonists who did not know the truth were terrified. Marcus had to call an emergency meeting. This is an intelligent being, he told the assembled colonists. Not an animal. She is here by choice to learn about us as we learn about her. Anyone who harms her or treats her poorly will answer to me personally. There was fear and confusion and anger. Some people wanted to leave the planet immediately, and others wanted the dragon locked up or sent away. But a few were curious, interested, open to the possibility of something new. Claire Patterson, a teacher who worked with the colony children, was one of the first to approach Dawn without fear. She brought her students to meet the dragon. The children were less afraid than the adults. They saw Dawn as amazing and wonderful, not threatening. Within days, the children were playing near Dawn while she watched them with patient eyes. She learned to recognize each child by name. She made soft sounds when they showed her their drawings and games. She is good with kids, Claire told Marcus one afternoon. Better than some human adults I know. Marcus watched as a little girl named Lucy showed Dawn a flower she had picked. Dawn lowered her great head and sniffed it gently. Lucy giggled with delight. She is a mother, Marcus said. She understands children. Slowly, more adults began to accept Dawn's presence. Not everyone. Some remained afraid or angry. But enough people came around that the base began to function normally again. A new normal that included a dragon walking among them. Danny spent hours each day with Dawn, teaching her human words and learning dragon concepts. Kate helped by creating visual aids and communication tools. Amy recorded everything for future reference. 1 month after Dawn arrived at the base, Marcus found her on the landing pad at sunset. She sat looking at the sky where the twin suns were setting. Her posture seemed sad. "You miss them," Marcus said, sitting down nearby. "Your family." Dawn made a low humming sound. She drew in the dust with her claw. A picture of the baby dragon. Her daughter. She is healing well," Marcus said, even though he knew Dawn probably could not understand all his words yet. Danny checked on her last week. The wing is almost completely healed. Dawn looked at him with those intelligent eyes. She understood enough. She made a sound that might have been thanks. "We will make this work," Marcus promised. "Humans and dragons together. I swear it." Dawn touched her nose gently to his shoulder. Trust given. Hope shared. In the distance, Marcus could see Scar flying her nightly patrol over the valley. Two species learning to share one world. It was messy and complicated and uncertain. But it was happening, and that was enough. 6 months had passed since the morning when dragons came searching for their missing child. Marcus stood at his usual spot by the observation window and watched the valley below. Everything looked different now. Better. More complete somehow. Danny Carter walked alongside Scar in the afternoon sun. Their shadows merged together on the ground. Danny was no longer just a researcher. He had become the first human to truly learn the dragon language. His breakthrough came when he realized their communication was not just sounds. The position of their wings mattered. The slight color changes in their scales mattered. Even the patterns they traced when they flew through the air carried meaning. Behind them, a group of human children played with 3 young dragons. The game had no real rules. It changed every few minutes, dissolving into laughter and chirps that sounded remarkably similar. Scar's granddaughter was there, her wing completely healed. She swooped and dove in the air while her grandmother watched with obvious pride. Kate appeared beside Marcus holding a datapad. She had been promoted to first officer after everything that happened. "The supply ship arrives tomorrow. They sent another message asking about the restricted zones. Command is getting impatient. They want answers." "Let them be impatient," Marcus replied. "We are buying time." "Time for what exactly?" "For this." He pointed at the valley. "For relationships to grow, for trust to build, for the dragons to decide when they are ready to be known to the rest of humanity." The door opened and Greg Palmer walked in. "Sir, Scar is asking for you at the city. Danny says it is important." Marcus grabbed his jacket. The trips to the Dragon City were routine now, but they never stopped being amazing. Kate came with him as they headed to the landing pad. The flight over the mountains had become familiar. As they approached the crater, Marcus could see changes. New structures were being built. And strangely, there were empty spaces that were exactly the right size for human buildings. Scar waited in the main plaza, but she was not alone. The elder dragon stood beside her. Around them, at least 80 dragons had gathered. More than Marcus had ever seen in one place. Danny met them as they landed. His face was bright with excitement. "Captain, they have made a decision. About going public. About telling Earth." Marcus felt his heart beat faster. "What did they decide?" "They want to wait 1 more year. But not to hide anymore. To prepare properly. They have been studying us as carefully as we have been studying them. They want to understand human culture and politics and fears. They want to be ready to present themselves not as mysterious aliens, but as partners who have done their homework." The elder dragon made a series of gestures. Scar added her own sounds. Danny had learned to read the combined language well. "They are saying they have watched too many species make first contact from a position of fear or weakness. They want to meet humanity as equals. To show they are not primitive creatures waiting to be helped, but a civilization that chose patience and wisdom over violence." Kate stepped forward. They want to control their own story, their own narrative. Exactly, Danny confirmed. And they are asking for our help. They want to learn everything about Earth, about human history and art and philosophy and wars, everything. Why do they want Marcus to be their guide to understanding humanity? And they want to send one of their own to learn from us in return. Dawn stepped forward from the crowd. The bronze mother dragon who had been living at the base for months now. She had learned so much already. She could understand basic human speech and could communicate simple ideas back. She volunteers to continue, Danny said, to be the official bridge between our peoples. But they want to send others too. Young dragons who can learn faster. They want to create a group of dragons who truly understand humans before any official contact happens. Marcus looked at Scar and the Elder and Dawn and all the assembled dragons. They were trusting humanity with something precious. The chance to do first contact the right way. To build something based on respect instead of conquest. We will need to expand the base, Marcus said slowly. Create spaces for both our species. Develop new ways of doing things, new social rules. And we will have to be very careful about which colonists we tell. Some will not understand. Some will be afraid. Some will be exactly what the dragons feared, Kate added quietly. Which is why we choose carefully, Marcus replied. We bring people in slowly. Those who can see dragons as people first. We build a community that proves we can live together before we announce it to the whole galaxy. The elder dragon approached Marcus. It placed something at his feet, a crystal carved into the shape of a dragon and a human, standing side by side. The crystal glowed with soft inner light. A gift, Danny said. A symbol of the treaty they are proposing, not a legal document. They find those too cold and impersonal, but a promise carved in stone that cannot be erased or edited. A commitment to build something new together. Marcus picked up the crystal. It was heavy and warm in his hands. The weight of responsibility, the warmth of hope. Tell them we accept. Tell them that humanity, at least the best of what we can be, will honor this promise. As Scar translated, the assembled dragons lifted their voices together. It echoed off the crater walls. Celebration and commitment. Hope and warning. All woven together in a song that had never been sung before. That night, Marcus sent his regular report to Earth Command. It mentioned continued environmental studies, interesting geological formations in the north, the need for more time before opening the region to general settlement. It did not mention dragons, not yet. And in his quarters, he placed the crystal on his desk where the moonlight made it glow. Beside it, he put a photograph. Danny surrounded by young dragons, all of them playing together, completely at ease with each other. The truth would come out eventually. Secrets this big never stayed hidden forever. But when it did, Marcus was determined the story would be the right one. Not about humans discovering primitive aliens or conquering a new world. It would be about the morning dragons came searching for their missing child and found a human willing to protect instead of exploit. About two refugee species choosing to share a world instead of fight over it. About the possibility that different forms of life could meet not as enemies but as neighbors, as family. Outside his window, a familiar shape crossed the stars, Scar flying her nightly patrol, protecting the valley where humans and dragons learn to live together one day at a time. Marcus raised his hand toward the sky, a salute to the guardian in the darkness. And somewhere in the night, he heard her answering call. Down in the valley, Dawn settled into her shelter at the human base. Around her, the colonists were sleeping. Some still feared her. Some still wanted her gone. But many had accepted her. The children especially loved her. They brought her drawings and flowers and stories about their day. Tomorrow, more young dragons would come to the base, 3 of them eager to learn. There would be fear and resistance from some colonists, but there would also be wonder and acceptance from others. Slowly, the two communities were merging, learning to share space and resources and dreams. And Claire Patterson had already organized a combined school program. Human children and young dragons learning together, playing together, growing up knowing each other not as aliens but as friends. It was messy and difficult and sometimes scary, but it was happening. A new world being born from the choice to trust instead of fear, to protect instead of conquer, to build bridges instead of walls. Marcus looked at the crystal one more time before turning off the light. In 1 year, they would tell Earth the truth. In 1 year, the dragons would be ready to meet humanity on equal terms. In 1 year, everything would change again. But tonight the valley was peaceful. Two species sleeping under the same stars, sharing the same home, building the same future. Marcus closed his eyes and smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight there was hope, and sometimes hope was enough. Outside, Scar completed her patrol and returned to the Dragon City. Her granddaughter was already asleep, curled up next to her mother. The little one's wing had healed perfectly. Soon, she would fly as well as any adult. Scar looked toward the human base in the distance. Lights still glowed in some windows. Her friend Marcus was probably still awake, thinking and planning. He was a good leader, a good ally, a good soul. The elder dragon joined her on the high platform overlooking both the city and the valley. Together they watched the settlement below. Two worlds becoming one. It would take time and patience and faith. But it would work. It had to work, because both species had already lost one home. Neither could afford to lose another. And the twin moons rose higher, casting silver light across the landscape. Somewhere in the valley, a human child dreamed of flying with dragons. Somewhere in the city, a young dragon dreamed of learning human songs. And in the space between dreams and reality, a new future was being written. One where morning would always bring hope instead of fear. Where differences would be celebrated instead of feared. Where two species who should have been strangers became family. The stars wheeled overhead, ancient and unchanging. But below them on Drakkar 4, everything had changed. Everything was still changing, and that change was beautiful.